to YouTube later on. Okay, where am I? There we go. All right, so just a little bit about me. So I've been working in cloud automation, web hosting, web development, programming. I've been doing all kinds of stuff. I was a network engineer. I was a cloud op, a dev op, a programmer, Go, Python, all kinds of stuff. Been playing around with systems, Linux systems, FreeBSD, BSD systems for a very long time, many years, since I was about 11, 12. Remember my mum and dad bought me my first computer, and the first thing I did was learn how it worked and programmed it, etc. And so yeah, that's pretty classic situation really. Fell into IT, started automating things, started getting into programming and building systems, and then finding a job in that field, and then just working my way up. So at the moment I work for the Australian government, the state government. So I work for the Queensland Police Service, implementing cloud infrastructure for those organisations around the QPS, and I primarily focus on automating the cloud delivery. So we have architects, and then I automate that delivery. So we'll be looking at various different tools, etc., throughout the life of this stream, and they're the tools that I use day to day at the moment. So overall, the stream is going to be quite relaxed. It's not going to be like a webinar. It's not going to be like an online lecture. It's not going to be like a university lecture or anything. It's going to be pretty relaxed. You're going to see me Googling for things. You're going to see me looking up information, etc. Making mistakes. You'll see errors. That's fine. I think that's important that you see that kind of stuff, because if you're seeing the errors now while you're learning, you'll when you encounter them in the wild, when you're not watching me on stream, you'll know what to do, or at least you'll have a better idea of what to do. You'll be able to see me searching for things, so you'll be able to see, because I'm searching for things and Googling for things, you'll be able to see that, as Shoal said there, just like one of us, basically, you'll be able to see that, I'm Googling things as well. There's very few people in this industry. Don't ignore Google. Like, they're not so brilliant that everything's in their head. Even Einstein said, don't remember things that you can look up in a book. And obviously, I think if he was alive today, he would say, don't remember things that you can just Google, right? So you'll see me doing a lot of Googling, but that's again is an important part of a learning process, because you'll see how I'm finding and discovering information. It's mostly the Ansible documentation, the Terraform documentation, the Packer documentation, the AWS API, and so on and so forth. And so you'll see me doing that, but again, it's in a very relaxed format. There won't be any kind of like formal structure. Well, there is a sort of structure, but it's not like a university lecture or anything. So if we have a little talk about the technologies I'm going to be using. So primarily we're going to be looking at Terraform, Ansible, Packer, GitLab. I've always wanted to go back to FreeBSD as an operating system as well. So on the server side, that is. So I'm going to be not using the classic kind of just spinning up AMIs based on Ubuntu or anything like that. I'm going to be using FreeBSD actually. So there's a little bit of a learning curve there, but Ansible will actually abstract away a lot of that, a lot of the operating system anyway. So that's irrelevant. So yeah, there'll be other technologies that will come into it as well. We'll be using GitLab, but we'll be using the GitLab CICD Pipeline in there as well. We'll be probably writing a little bits of custom tools here and there as the stream goes on, and the architecture actually gets more and more complicated. And the actual end goal for the stream, for at least I've called the stream version 1.0. So basically, it's to kind of get to a 1.0 of some kind of basic architecture, and that will be around implementing MkDocs, which is a static site generator around documentation for projects. And what I thought was it would be really cool, I think, if we were to develop, if we were to build an MkDocs instance in a highly available way in AWS, which is really simple, but we'll get to see how you can actually still build a lot of automation around that, even though it's a very simple architecture. And then everything that we discuss will then document in that MkDocs implementation, and then it can be live. We can make it public, and we can all learn from the code. All the code will be public as well. There's links in the channel description already to the Trello board, which we'll see in a second. The GitLab group that I've set up, which will have all of the repositories in there as well, so you can snip some of that code. I'll probably put it all under an MIT license so that there's no kind of There's not going to be anything getting in your way from a licensing perspective. I'll just make it so that you can kind of do whatever you want. Alrighty then. So if I just do that. Alright, so this is basically what I'm going to be looking at implementing. Some of you may have heard of this before. Some of you may not. It is essentially a project documentation with Markdown. So you write Markdown, and then it generates a static website for you. And you can host that, as it says here, anywhere. You can put it on S3, GitHub pages, and so on and so forth. But what we're going to do is we're going to host it on a couple of EC2 instances with a simple load balancer in front of it, just in a highly available way. It's just basically a simple project that we can implement that gets us writing Terraform code, writing Ansible code, using GitLab, using Git, building a CICD pipeline, and then just seeing that all kind of come together and go through. We'll build that pipeline so that as we're writing code, we can see it going through. That's much later on in the stream, in the stream's life. We're obviously not going to get that done in 2 or 3 hours. It's probably going to be several streams worth of work, but we'll take our time with it. Like I said, it is going to be relaxed. MkDocs is really nice. I actually do enjoy it, and some of the themes we can get for it are actually make it really quite beautiful. So yeah, we'll work our way through implementing this. The installation is very simple. I believe it's written in Python. It's just a tool that you basically run inside of a repository. So it's going to be really interesting to see when we change our actual documentation code. We're going to have to work out a way of getting that hooked into the CICD within GitLab. We're going to have that automatically pull down the repository, generate the new code, and then between us, we're going to have to then work out how we then make that live, because we've got these two EC2 instances. So there's several things that we can do. We can either have it generate an artifact like a zip file, a tar.gz file, and then we just roll it over the top of the file system of the EC2 instances and restart Nginx, or maybe put it in an AB setup, or we can produce an entire AMI and version control the whole AMI and build new systems and then flip the load balancer over. There's so many different ways we can do that, and so the best thing for us to do is to just kind of jump in the chat here. Hey, welcome, Spanito, thanks for joining. So what we can do is just discuss how we're going to implement those kind of A/B deployments. Do we want high availability? How do we approach this? And that's just something we can look at 2 or 3 streams down the line, basically. But yeah, it's this is a great bit of kit. I really love it for documentation, but I'm a very kind of less is more kind of person. All right, what I've got here is a Trello board as well, that I'm going to be using to just kind of track the project. Let's make sure that's all running. Yeah. So we've got our backlog here, which is all of the things that we're going to need to do. We've got to create an AWS account, but I'm obviously going to do that kind of off screen, if you like, just for security reasons. I have to pull out keys and things. We're going to have to create Git repositories in order to host our code. So I've got a few ideas here around Ansible. We're going to need one. We're going to need to write an MkDocs role. We're going to need to create a users role, an OS role. We're going to need to create the workload management and the workload repositories for our Terraform code. I'll explain the difference between these two as well. We've got our Packer repositories, so we're going to need 3 images. We're going to need a base FreeBSD image, which is what we update and control ourselves rather than using one just kind of directly. We will use one off the marketplace, but then we'll stop using the marketplace one and kind of take ownership of our own version, create our own base image, and then we'll create one that contains MkDocs, and we'll create one that contains the GitLab runner. And that's what I was saying around the MkDocs images. How do we implement changes and make them go live, right? So something we have to discuss. Alrighty, so we're going to need Ansible roles as well for setting up GitLab runners, installing MkDocs. And again, it's a very simple project, but it just gives us the opportunity to write roles, playbooks within Ansible. It gives us the opportunity to write Terraform modules and see Terraform in action, put our state file in an S3 bucket and lock it with DynamoDB. It gives us an opportunity to see GitLab in action. And we can look at other things as well further down the line, perhaps maybe once we've implemented this version 2 of the stream and the kind of next season of the stream, if you like, we can look at using GitHub instead. We can use GitHub, and we can use GitHub Actions as opposed to GitLab. It all depends on kind of what you want. And I guess a little bit as well as what I fancy playing around with. So yeah, we're going to need like a Bastion host to lock down the network. So we're going to need 3 EC2 instances, not just 2, for example. Yeah, we're going to need a base Terraform module for setting up things like VPCs, internet gateways, all that basic stuff that you need in place in an AWS account, which I know is something that Shoal is interested in. We're going to need a Terraform module per workload. So I consider these a workload. MkDocs, the GitLab runner, the Bastion host, they're a workload. And for me, a workload should encompass the subnets and every resource inside of that subnet. So those modules will contain the meat of the actual infrastructure, and we bring them all together into kind of the workload repository. We pull them all in as modules, and then we action those against an AWS account. They go live, they build, they feed off of each other, all the information off of each other, and then we have our stack. And again, that'll be a few streams down the line when we reach that point. I've got a few other things here around the Terraform module, so which I haven't filled in the specifics for yet. So as you can see on the base, I've put the resources that we're going to need. I've not done that yet. I've not got around to doing that yet. We can do that together, and we can all throw together ideas about how we should implement this stuff. Alrighty then. So what's the architecture going to look like? So I thought that we'd create we get our crayons out and just actually draw it out just like that. All right, so I reckon that the way we approach this, hopefully I did some basic testing, and hopefully this is all going to be visible on the screen for you, so please do let me know if it's not. In fact, let's get rid of that. All right. Right, so we're obviously going to need a VPC, right? So let's pop that up there. I'll zoom into this for now. For now, I'll just keep it spaced out. I have to keep the virtual machine from which what you're looking at now at 720p. Otherwise, when we look at code, you won't see any of the code. I think I've got a VS Code open here, or I've got a terminal open here. So there's a terminal showing Terraform version. As you can see, it's a bit it's a little bit kind of like fluffy, if you like, a bit blurry, but you can read it fine. But if I did the stream in 1080p, or at least if I had the VM at 1080p, you just would not be able to see anything at all. So that's why it's at 720p, but that also unfortunately affects the kind of resolution we get here within draw.io, which is a bit annoying, but there you go. We can zoom in anyway, so it's not a problem. So we're obviously going to need we're obviously going to need a VPC, right? So then if we draw out another box, we're obviously going to need, we're going to have 3 AZs, so obviously 3 AZs within, at least within Australia anyway, we have our 3 AZs. So I reckon that for our use case, we only really need 2. So does it look good? All right, great. Okay, if you can see everything, then that's fine. And again, on the draw.io, you know, I can zoom in, and it's visible. So if it looks great, then that's awesome. Thanks for clarifying that. I hate having this edge here. Don't know why. I like to have a lot of going on in the canvas. So these are our AZs here, and then obviously, so I'll use a dash line to kind of denote something that's a resource, something that we'll use, but I guess is a bit passive and kind of in the background. So like an AZ, we create a VPC, but then when you create it, it kind of exists and it just kind of sits in the background. You don't really interact with it much. And then I'll use these rounded kind of solid objects, solid line, I should say, to kind of denote stuff that will. Should I put a fill on that, do you think? Just so it gets, maybe. All right. Yeah, so we'll have an LB subnet, which will be public. Okay. don't really have a standardized way of doing this in draw.io. I use draw.io so much day to day, but I never really have a standard way of laying out subnets or anything. I kind of just make it up as I go along most of the time. And then we'll have a second. So now we'll just call this HTTP subnet. That's even hard for me to see, so I think it's probably going to be difficult for you guys to see. So yeah, the VPC, we got our two AZs there, and then we got our two subnets spread across those AZs. We've got one that's going to be public. It's obviously going to be allowed to route to the public internet. We've got one, the HTTP will make this one private. There's not going to be a database, by the way, in this architecture, because it's a static website. So we're not going to be dealing with a database. It's not because I'm afraid to deal with a database. It's just, I think I just want to keep it simple for now. I think given a simple architecture like this, we can still explore some of the best tools on the market at the moment, and learn a lot and play around a lot without having to introduce a database. And then later on down the line, don't get me wrong, we can introduce a Ruby Rails application or anything you want, WordPress, which obviously requires a database. And then we can start looking at RDS and things like that. But for now, I just want to keep it really, really simple. Okay, so we've got our VPC. We're going to need, we're going to need a internet. Internet gateway. Okay, Shoal, you're starting to remember all of this stuff from your training or your certifications that you've got, internet gateways and your route tables and stuff. Obviously, our public oh yeah, we're going to need a thingy as well, aren't we? Route 53. All right, so we'll go just put zone. So kind of, yeah, Route 53 zones do exist outside of the. We'll kind of just do that, I guess, to just symbolize connections coming in. That's his hand. He's connecting directly to the internet with his hand because he's got a magic TCP/IP hand. Coming through the Route 53 zone, which we'll also manage. So I'll probably, I could use one of my many domains, so I can just throw a domain pointed at Route 53, and then we can use our internet gateway, so our public subnet can route over the public internet. Obviously, there's going to be private connection here to make those lines a little bit bigger. There we go. All right, so just kind of the internal, so we can just see it a bit better. Sorry if I'm moving the diagram around a lot as well. I do, no pun intended, but I do twitch a little bit sometimes with this kind of stuff. So tell me if I'm just being annoying and do something annoying, and I'll try and stop. So internet gateway, public subnet. So what are we gonna have inside the public subnet? Well, we're obviously gonna have an ALB. So we'll have an ALB here with a HTTPS listener, and then what we'll do at the back here, this diagram will get really kind of mucky really quickly, or at least it'll be complicated really quickly. I don't know if you've ever used draw.io as well, but you can do some really cool things. You can create pages along the bottom, which is really nice. And one of the things I sometimes like to do is build out the whole diagram and then duplicate it on a different page, and then start stripping bits out, so that you can actually go from the full and start breaking it down and look at it in different bits. And you can knock bits out and highlight in different colours, and it's great for doing things like that. So maybe we'll look at doing that. Okay, so we're going to have an ALB with a HTTPS listener. It's going to go down here. It's going to go into an AutoScaling group. Now, maybe Shoal will have some input on this. I know you say relatively new to AWS, but this may be something you're interested in, or maybe have a comment on. But when you are building out EC2 instances, in my opinion, even though it adds a slight bit of complexity, there is virtually no disadvantage to having those EC2 instances inside of an AutoScaling group. Even if you set the minimum to 2, the maximum to 2, and the desired to 2, so you just get 2, and it can never go up or down until you change those values. Because if you do want to scale it later, you just change those values. bounces off of a launch configuration, which is based on AMI instance type and size and so on and so forth. And if you never want to scale it, then don't scale it. But if you do want to scale it later on, you've got to build an ASG, you've got to build your launch configuration, you've got to then build up your instances, and then you've got to point your load balancer at those two instances. So effectively, you almost have downtime if you then want to introduce an AutoScaling group later. And I found that you may as well just put it in an AutoScaling group now, because it doesn't cost anything. It's just a logical unit that Amazon keep in play for you, and you can just implement the scaling alarms and policies further on down the line. It's completely irrelevant. Just going to close that there. So we'll have an AutoScaling group, and like I said, we'll set it to 222, which will be the desired 2, the minimum 2, and the maximum 2. And our listener will obviously, go down there. So what have you got there, Shoal? It also helps ensuring you have an EC2 instance up and not accidentally turned off, right? Yeah, so you could put like the minimum of that's right. Yeah, I see what you mean. So if you've got a minimum and a desired of 2 and a max of 2, and one of them shuts down, it will come back up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, AWS will see that it's down, so you kind of get health checks for free. There's probably a billing element in the background there. I'm not too good with AWS billing; it's very complicated. But yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. If one goes down, it just comes back up again. So you kind of get that automatic self-healing. What you've got to make sure you get right there, though, is if the application on that EC2 instance is pretty complicated, you've got to make sure that it's been architected, not necessarily the software, but just the whole EC2 instance has been configured so that it can come up and connect itself to a database, and it knows where it is. So that so if one fails and then it comes back up again, it doesn't rely on any human intervention in order to actually come back up and start serving traffic. So you've got to make sure you get that. In our case, it's going to be super simple. It's going to come up, and Nginx is going to come up. It's going to look at a directory with some static files in it. It's stateless, basically. It's going to be super simple. But yeah, no, that's actually a really good point. You get health checks and auto healing for free. All right, so we've got our ALB with what we're also going to need is there's probably things I'm going to miss here as well. But we're going to need an ACM cert, which is if I draw a line from here, it's a bit big. It's effectively going to be for our domain that we're managing inside of this zone here, and then obviously that's going to be attached with an SSL policy, TLS policy, to the HTTPS listener. Right, let's have a think. Let's go back to what we've got here. Terraform module base, Ansible roles, Git repositories, account architecture, highly available MkDocs. So do we have that then? There's probably, like I say, there's probably little. I mean, obviously there's route tables, there's the security groups, there's NACLs between these that we'll implement, and I believe that you should actually implement NACLs. Don't just do all. Like actually put NACLs in place. It's not too difficult. It's fiddly and a bit of a pain, but it's not too difficult. Yeah, and we're obviously going to need kind of, actually it'll be down here. We're going to need our AMIs here, which obviously get that line straight, because it'll trigger my OCD, or OCDC as a friend of mine called it recently. OCDC, just like ACDC, but for OCD. We're going to need a Bastion host here as well. No, the Bastion host won't let us talk to the router. That's dumb. It will go over the public internet though. Is 3 too big? Or was it 2? No, it was 3. Okay. Idiot. Alright. Yeah, we're going to need our Bastion as well, and then our Bastion's going to allow us to obviously come down and talk. Let's move that over there. Alright. We need a Bastion as well. So that's kind of a basic overview of what the simple architecture we'll implement will look like. And it is relatively simple. There's nothing really, you know, nothing's jumping off this and going, holy crap, you know. Be careful, Mike. You know, you implement that infrastructure, Netflix are going to be headhunting you to implement the stack. That ain't happening anytime soon. Not with this, not with this architecture anyway. It's pretty simple. It's a pretty classic design. Usually you'd have a third data tier down here, which would be another subnet private with your RDS instances inside of it. But again, we don't need that. Yeah. I think that pretty much covers that for the architecture. Again, that's getting really small because I'm looking at the stream here and I can see that it's really hard to read, and I do apologize. I wonder if there's a way of... Ooh, gives me a bit of real estate. Guess that can go like that, can't it? A little bit. Got this page one down here. Can't do that. Alright. Now, although this is simple, here's where the interesting part comes in. Because even though this is simple, we're going to need Terraform code for all of these things that we implement, even the certificate, the load balancer, the zone, the internet gateway, the Bastion host, obviously not the AZs, but the subnets. Second subnet here, more EC2 instances, or rather an ASG here, and also AutoScaling Group, and AWS is going to take care of the EC2 instances for us. What gets interesting is that we're going to need Terraform for those. We're going to need Ansible here. We're going to need Ansible here. We'll need Ansible here. This will be also Ansible and Packer. When you build a CI/CD stack, that's when it gets a little bit more interesting. So what we could actually do, if you're agreeable, is in the third AZ, just to keep it kind of neatly separated, I guess, is over here we could have another subnet that doesn't span the other two, right? In fact, I'll just make it a nice big fat thing like this. This is where our GitLab runner will go. So this will be our CI/CD subnet. That will have to be public. Yeah, okay, it'll just be easier if we just make it public, because it's going to need to actually talk back to GitLab.com. I'm not going to self-host a GitLab instance. I could self-host a GitLab instance. It's very, very simple. You just put Docker on a box and run it. But may as well just use GitLab.com. Makes it easy for you guys to access the code, etc. and see things. And you've probably already got a GitLab.com account anyway, so why make you create another account or to do pull requests and so on and so forth. So inside of here, we're going to need an EC2 instance. It's going to be our GitLab runner, right? So this bad boy is gonna be connecting to. Oops, a daisy. Let's move that to back. As you can see, I use draw.io a lot, so I kind of know some of the tricks. But this bad boy is going to be. What if I change that to a color that can somewhat makes it stand out? Is that all right? Yeah, guess. So this bad boy is gonna be like kind of managing. It's gonna be managing everything, right? It's it's gonna be. This is where our code is gonna come from, and all of these lines just kind of represent just rough examples of where the what it'll be configured, the subnets, the EC2 instances, everything, all the code is going to span out of this GitLab runner when we change code. And now you can start to see that the diagram is really starting to get very interesting, because over here we're going to need a GitLab.com account, right? And from this we're going to need a boatload of repositories, and there will be a lot, because I'm very big on creating lots of repositories for individual Terraform modules, Ansible roles. People drive me crazy when I go into a client site and they've got one repository, and they're really proud of the fact that they got one repository with 16 Ansible roles in it, and you're kind of like, it sounds cool, but how do you individually version them, and what happens when you start getting to a huge scale and your UAT environment, testing environment, needs to go ahead of prod, but then you make a change to the role. How do you stop that change from going into prod, right, without using some kind of versioning? And so the Git repositories are free, like literally free. So it doesn't make any sense to not split them out, in my opinion. Seems like it's more work, like you've got more to manage. Oh, we've got 35 repositories. It's like, yeah, but they're free. Once you understand the concept of a repository and what's in it, understand the Terraform module, I don't really see the downside to having a module, having a repository per module. So anyway, we're going to need plenty. So we're going to have like TFM, Terraform module, so AWS base. Oh my god, what did I do? I'm going to save. Realize I've just done a lot of work and not saved. Put that down. Yeah, okay, it's gone into downloads. So this bad boy, I'm not going to start drawing lines everywhere because that will make this diagram an absolute joke. Trust me on that. But I'll draw a line now. This bad boy will be, it'll be coming in and setting up the VPC. It will set up the, it won't set up the, yeah, because our architecture is so simple, I will have it set up the subnets. I wasn't going to have it do that. I was going to have each module do that itself. Oh, that needs to go to back as well, doesn't it? See, I use draw.io a lot, so I know about all these little layering issues that you get. So this bad boy is going to be managing your VPCs, your internet gateways. It's going to be managing subnets, but not EC2 Instance. So that's going to build out the base. That module is going to build out the base for us. The buttery biscuit base. Hopefully some of you get that reference. I love that song. It's so funny. Okay. We're going to need another one for MkDocs, which will actually build out the AutoScaling Group and everything for us. I'm not going to literally list them all here now because we'll discover more as we go. But essentially, yeah, we are going to need a module for a lot of things. So I'm just going to put star to basically say there's a lot of Terraform modules. But again, here's where the interesting thing comes in. So going back to the architecture, the diagram kind of screams simple, but at the same time, I've somehow managed to make it complicated by drawing lines everywhere. But even a simple architecture like this, we can fully automate it with a CICD pipeline. So that's where out the back of here now, we will have, we will use CICD pipeline. And so each one of these will have a GitLab GitLab-cicd.yaml file, I believe it is. I can't remember the exact file name. But each one of these will have one of those files, which means that when we push code, which is going to be Absturd, is that Absturd? Excited to watch the VODs for this. Yep, no worries. I hope I don't actually think I've got VODs turned on. Let me go and do that now. Don't panic though, I'm recording as well. So I'll put it on YouTube. How do I? Okay, back to account. Let's go to account. Just 1 second. Channel and videos. Store pass. Automatically save broadcast for up to 14 days. Okay. You get 60 days if you're a Prime user. Yeah, excited to watch the VODs for this. Not going to be able to stay up in the USA. No, I understand the time zone difference is quite severe. Depending on the number of people in the United States that want to watch and want to come along, if I'm being honest, if the number of people in Europe and the US kind of outweighs what I get in Australia and New Zealand, I'll probably switch to a mid-morning Australian time stream in order to be available in the evening in the US if the actual demand is higher there. But I'll see how it goes. Maybe the VODs are sufficient for the US. I think they probably will be. So yeah, okay, I've turned on store past broadcast, so you should be able to get those VODs now. I hope. But again, I'm going to put them on YouTube, so don't worry. All right. Sweet. You're welcome. Not a problem. So here's us, right? Engineer. I've just drawn a line to my face. Don't want to do that. That was dumb, wasn't it? So what we're going to do is we're going to come along and we're going to do a git commit, right? And we're going to do it to this project. So what's going to happen is we are going to do our commit. It hits the repository. GitLab will read the YAML file that's in there that basically says I want the CICD pipeline to be enabled. We can put various things in there, like if we're on the develop branch, if we're on the master branch, and so on and so forth. We can trigger off tasks to do anything we want. We can spin up Docker containers. We can pretty much do anything we like. It'll hit the CICD pipeline, and then what we'll start seeing is linting, validating taking place on the code. So we're going to make sure that our Terraform code is valid code. I mean, what's the point in running Terraform apply and getting a big fat error when you can actually just run a validate and a lint, just make sure that everything's running as it should be anyway. Once you're up and running there, your CI, your continuous integration, your testing, etc. Once that's up and running, we then move on to the CD, to the continuous delivery, or the continuous deployment. Some people call it different things, continuous delivery, continuous deployment, whatever. That's when you start seeing, we start drawing big nice lines that come out then. And these big lines, like, they actually go in and actually start building stuff. You know, they actually come out of here and they actually build things. So that's your Terraform apply. It's also your Ansible playbook run. It's also your Packer run. So even our images, even our AMIs themselves will be code. Packer is code. It's JSON. So I guess it's a markup language, I guess, or a DDL, but it's code. So we'll even be able to implement that in here as well. So as you can see, even with such a simple architecture, just a load balancer and an AutoScaling group with a couple of instances in, you're getting enough there to start actually building out an automatic framework around that, and you can learn all of these concepts with something simple. You don't need anything. You don't need a Kubernetes cluster. We don't need Docker swarms. We don't need mesh networking. We don't need anything complicated to learn how to do these kind of tools. So we've got GitLab, we've got repositories. All right. I reckon that's probably it, you know. Should we do anything else? Does anyone else have any recommendations? Okay. LB. Well, oh yeah, well of course, much further down the line, there is obviously there is obviously scope for version 2 of the stream, and I'll just put it here in capital letters, which you probably definitely can't see because I can just about see, and I actually have a decent view of this. Monitoring. We can even take it as far as implementing backups as well. I know it's just a static website, but hey, why not? Why not have with this we can use something like that was good typing. We can use NetData for the monitoring. I really like NetData. You guys seen NetData? Love NetData. Real-time performance monitoring. Okay, that's the Git repository, so we can find the actual the websites are really there it is. Log aggregation, yeah, spot on. Absolutely, there's so much we can do with this. We can have a we can have an S3 bucket over here that we're slotting logs into. I keep forgetting to. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. That's a really good point. HTTP logs. We can do SSH logs from the OS. I mean, hell, why not, right? Let's just implement whatever we like. We can do all kinds of stuff in that S3 bucket. We can put up CloudWatch alarms. We can actually, hey, why don't we actually set it so that in the future we'll set this to a max of say 4, and set it to a minimum of 1 and a desired of 1, and that's implement really decent auto-scaling policies and alarms, and actually see if we can get that scaling up and down really nicely. Why not? Yeah, net data I really like this net data. It's really, really nice. Can you see? I'm just going to check to make sure looks pretty visible on the stream to me. So this is in DigitalOcean. They've got an instance, or I think it's an instance, in DigitalOcean with net data on it. And you can see all of this cool real-time metrics. I believe this is written in C++, so it's really efficient, really fast. And you can just pull out all of these metrics, scale this back, and it pauses it, stops it from going real time when you scroll around, and you hit this play button, and it syncs everything back up and goes back to real time analysis. You can see all of these really gorgeous graphs. I think we'll probably just implement this. It's got alarms and things, but it's been a while since I've used it. In fact, when I last used it, it did not have the alarms and didn't have this nodes thing, which I think is a paid for thing anyway. And the AWS infrastructure is going to cost me a bit of money anyway, so we'll try and keep the costs down to a minimum. Yeah, I love this net data. It's really nice. In fact, it can actually do Nginx and show you the connections, so we don't even have to do too much to get this kind of stuff out of the box. So what we can actually do, right, is we've got our monitoring here. I wonder if it's been a while since I've set it up. Oh, I know what it can do. It can use a backend and it can feed data to Prometheus and Grafana, and you can use Grafana to graph that data as well as having this stuff. So what we could do over here, that's our GitLab. That's the GitLab project, by the way. TCC, the Cloud Coach version 1.0, so that's the stream. The stream is version 1.0. I thought I'd add a bit of semantic versioning to the stream names just to make them somewhat interesting. But what we can actually do is we can use Grafana, Prometheus and Grafana to add all of this in, and then we could have a load balancer in here again, just an ALB with a HTTPS listener. And the reason I'd go with an ALB because it just handles all of the certificate stuff for you with ACM. I just really like doing that. So we can have that there. We'll put this there. God damn it. We'll put that there. That line's a bit big. It's feeding into there. And then down here we can have our Grafana. That's how it's spelled. And then we got this bad boy over here. Now if we just assume that this is the same internet gateway as the one earlier, we can do that. God damn it. Okay. So we can do all kinds of things here. We can have some real good fun with this. So there's us going in via our magic hand that's able to connect to the internet for some reason. We can go in and we can look at those stats, so we can set up all of that. That again, that can be public. So my intention is for this to, once we build it, it's for it to be public. You can see it being public. This can be public, as you can see here. The revealing public access to this, so it's clearly not too big of a security concern, hopefully. I'm not too fussed about security. Someone wants to hack it, whatever. I'll just take it down. Ruins it for everyone, so hopefully no one does that. We've got our S3 bucket. Yeah, there's just so much we can actually do with this. We can just keep going and going and going. I think for now, right, let me show you that duplication. So we duplicate this page, right? So if we kind of go, we call that our super end goal, right? That's like version 5 of the version 3 or version 4 of the stream or something, or maybe several months down the line. And then if we just go kind of like version 1, I reckon for version 1, yeah, I reckon for version 1 we just get rid of all of this stuff. And then version 2 we can look at implementing monitoring. I do want to do CICD stuff for the first version of all of this, because CICD was where cloud infrastructure and infrastructure as code and various other things as code really shines. No, go down, do that. Yeah, there we go. All right. So this pipeline over here is effectively hosted externally. It's hosted on GitLab.com. Although the CICD pipeline is talking to this runner here. We could use GitLab.com's runners, but what I think you'll find is when you go into a live environment, an enterprise or a government, you'll find that there's a lot of data sovereignty. We need to keep the data inside the DC. It needs to be in Australia or for abstract. I'm going to say your name is abstract. For abstract, there it's going to be in the US. You might only be able to can't leave New York. It's the state of New York for whatever reason. So you're going to find that using the built-in runners is good for some things, but probably not most. And then you've got to ask the question as well is, who can see the data on those runners, right? Do we trust GitLab.com? Yeah, of course we do. Why not? But ultimately, you don't know whether they're compromised. You don't know who they hand their data over to, perhaps legally or otherwise. And so if you're handing around SSH keys, all kinds of access keys for talking to your AWS infrastructure, do you really want to inject them into a shared runner? I'd probably say no. I'd probably take the hit on the expense. This can be a T2 small, cost maybe $15 a month. It can, it can even be in DigitalOcean. In fact, it can be on light sale. $5 a month, light sale. Hardly cost anything. Late in turbo emoticon, not an easy time for me. Will you upload recording? Absolutely, I will upload the recording. Naki, I understand it's very late. A lot of US viewers. Thank you for coming along. I really appreciate it. I'm hoping that the stream can reach a wide audience. Time zones are a bit annoying. Not really I can do about that, but I'll try my best. But they definitely will be recording. I've just turned on the VODs, so VODs are enabled. This is my first time streaming and using Twitch, so hopefully the VODs just work. UK viewer, okay. Oh well, yeah, okay. I'm from the UK originally. You might be able to tell. So UK time. Let's have a look. Let's get our little world clock up here because my parents are still in England. Yeah, right. Okay. So 10 to 9 in the morning. So you've got to go to work then, bro. I assume they don't let you watch Twitch while you're at work. My work doesn't let me do that neither. Not sure my client would be too happy with that. All right. So as I was saying, like, look, you could use the shared runners. I don't recommend it though. I really don't recommend it. Just because of the fact that, again, it's more about the secret stuff. Like, GitLab.com does have secrets management. You can inject secrets into it. They get injected into the job on the shared runners. But nah, just take the hit. It's super easy to set up your own runner. like it's an initial injection of a secret to get it going. So install on FreeBSD. That's nice that they've done that. So look, we create a user and a group. We download the binary. Make it executable. Create an MD log file with the correct permissions. Okay. Create an RCD file. Dump in this shell script. This will all be in Ansible, because we're going to be using Ansible. We can even this will be in an AMI. So once we've got that AMI set up, we're good to go. GitLab runner start. Make that runnable. Register the runner. Enable the service. Now you're done. Registering the runner is putting in gitlab.com, blah, blah. That's obviously, you can obviously run that unattended as well. You can put in a, I believe it's a file. Some running configuration settings can't be set with environment variable. I believe you can put in here and it configures everything. It's been a while since I've done it, but you can GitLab runner register, so you can just basically use command line tools like that. And the hardest part is the token, the registration token. So it's very likely that I'm going to have to do some of this stuff, not so much off stream, but more kind of like in another window that you can't see. Not because I don't trust any of you, but there will be people who will take advantage. So it's probably best that I basically do that just off stream when I run the. So this will go into the Ansible playbook and into the Ansible role. Once I have this token off stream, I will pump that in somewhere, get that injected and execute it, and then when it comes up, I can go through the logs. And you'll just have to trust me that it worked, I'm afraid. Okay, 9 a.m. now. I was meaning to join earlier. I'm at work and the boss. So no issues. I'm at work and the boss. Oh, you're at work and you're the boss at work. Wow, cool. You're your own boss. You answer to no one. Except maybe the Prime Minister and maybe the Queen. Maybe. Depends. Depends on your views. Let's not go there. Cool. Right, registering a runner, installing GitLab. So it's so simple to just get that running, and you get tighter control, and it's cheap. So I've listed like TFM repositories here, but obviously there's going to be others. There's going to be Ansible, there's going to be Packer, and so on and so forth. All right. I can go straight as a Trello, can I? No, I'll download an offline copy of it actually. This Trello is public, by the way. Again, the link is in the description of the channel. So while I'm uploading these images, you should be able to go in and see this attachment that I'm about to put on here for you. Sweet, like you guys should be able to, you ladies and gentlemen should be able to download that. If someone could confirm that, that would be great. If not, that's okay. I'm going to go on a short break in about 5 minutes, just a couple of minutes, just to drink a bit more water, and just use the WC. All right. So we've had a little look at our architecture. And so I'm going to leave that doing for now. And I reckon what we do now is we kind of look at those Git repositories. Throw a link in the chat for it. Yeah, sure. Hold on a second. Why can't I? Public. Yes, make pop up. Yes. Oh, do I just do that? Give that a try. All right. So we're going to need repositories for these things, aren't we? MkDocs, users role, OS role, yeah, the Terraform management. All right, let's actually look at the... so the first thing we're going to do is we're definitely going to need Terraform stuff first. Works well, I can download the images. Thanks, Joel. Appreciate that, mate. Ansible, Packer repositories. Yeah, right, okay. So let me talk about this workload management versus workload, okay? So I'm gonna plug my own blog here because I actually wrote about this, right? Yeah, I'm gonna put this in the chat as well. Oh, if I can. No, I can't. Oh, okay. Can't copy and paste between the VM and that's okay. I've got a separate browser here. I can do that with. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be repeating effectively what I said there in that blog post, which is about splitting away, is about splitting your Terraform workloads in kind of two ways. You've got the kind of meta, the management layer of your Terraform code, and then you've got the workload layer. And it essentially boils down to this layer sets up the stuff that manages the rest of it. So I tend to use the management layer to set up the base VPC, the subnets. That does look visible on the stream, I think, but I'll zoom in a little bit more anyway. So the management tier is you are effectively setting up the VPC, your subnets, the state. Do I have an example of this? Could have an example of this code, but maybe we'll write that in the next for the next hour or so of the stream. If you guys are enjoying this, by the way, then I'm just going to keep going. I was going to stop at 8, but I can go through till 9. The management layer is going to set up subnets, the state file, so it's going to set up S3 buckets, DynamoDB. It's going to set up the base security groups, GitLab runner, for example. And then that sets up everything necessary in the AWS account. It's kind of like the cement foundations on which everything else can then build. So from there you can then build the house, right? So that's where your design comes in. So the design layer is the actual workload itself. Okay, so the design layer is basically, if we go back to the architecture, the design part of it is effectively no, that's management. I guess Bastion would be management as well. Internet Gateway would be management as well. Yeah, so like your workload would be this kind of stuff. Does that make sense? So that's like kind of, it's kind of the stuff that isn't back office is probably what I'm looking for. It's not the back office kind of stuff. It's the front end workload that actually handles the inbound requests from the general public. Where's my little arrow gone? Oh, it's the other way, the other end. So the workload goes in here. Now the reason you do that is because if you notice how management is a directory and design is a directory, what you'll learn, if you don't already know, is that any directory that contains Terraform code is a module. So the management is a module and the design is a module. Now we won't treat the management as a module. What we'll actually in fact do there is we will go into the management folder and we'll run Terraform apply directly in there, and we'll store our state in an S3 bucket and block it with the DynamoDB table. The design won't have any kind of provider information. That will be a basic module that won't have any understanding of providers or backend at all. But if we look here, we've got this production.tf file here. What that does is it imports the design as a module. So inside of design, we will pull in all our separate modules that build out our an ALB with an ACM certificate based on a particular zone. We'll have another module that builds out the AutoScaling Group with all the minimums and maximums in there. We'll have a module that builds out a Bastion host, GitLab runner, and so on and so forth. And inside the design, we'll pull all those modules together. And then inside of production, we'll bring in the design module as a module again. So it's like kind of a multi-tier of modules. And the reason you do that is because if you've got a production environment, and then you've got a non-prod environment, and you've got a UAT and a staging environment, you want them to be pretty much vertically identical. You want them to be coming from the same code base every time so that the builds are repeatable. And even though if you advance non-prod by, say, a version, because you want to introduce, say, another EC2 instance, you version control your design module so that prod uses version 1, but non-prod will use version 1.1. You can do that in Terraform. And that will essentially mean that once you've tested 1.1, we can then tell the production.tf file to use 1.1, Terraform apply, and then the changes then go out that we've tested. All right. Worth setting up a Discord server for your streams. This is great. Yeah, I've got one. Let me... Again, that's on the channel. Let me just... Excuse me 1 second. Just going to grab the link. Yeah, okay. It's really weird watching myself on stream. But then I've done video training courses before, so... Okay. What do you mean by an out-of-band network? Do you mean that you can't access it in work? It's not accessible from your corporate network, I assume? That does make sense. I work in state government at the minute, and it's very, very restricted. So I do understand your pain. All right. Oh, the management network is an out-of-band. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the management network is sort of to the side. It's out of band. You kind of... What you would do in a corporate environment is you actually... you put the management... So even though this is in a single repository, and these are folders in that same repository, you would actually have the management module or the management state in a completely separate Git repository. So again, yeah, out of band. And the benefit of that is you can restrict access to that. And what I'm doing at the minute is, at my current contract, is we're using Terraform Enterprise and Sentinel policies. And what we don't want people to be able to do is change the Sentinel policies so that any changes they make to the Terraform code can slip under any business expectations. So the management tier would indeed be, yes, out of bound. It'll be an out of bound network and an out of bound workload and an out of bound set of code that enforces certain expectations and conditions within the AWS account, so that then when the design is built by you or someone else, they can't override what happens in the management because it's a separate state and they don't have the permissions to do that. All right, just give me a minute. I'm just going to go to the loo. I'm just going to have a drink of water and I'll be right back. Thanks very much. Action mode, and I'm back. Alright, I was just looking at the chat there. How to force Twitch to stay within a certain latency. I know what you mean, I've had that issue as well. I don't know, is there anything I can do on my end? So I've got the Twitch dashboard up here, and it's saying that my that I'm live, obviously, and there are no recommended changes, and that everything is excellent. Like, it literally says excellent on bitrate. So I think I'm doing everything right. I'm streaming at 720 at 30 frames a second, so it should be pretty efficient stream view. Shouldn't be too much of a network bandwidth issue. So, but I do know what you mean though in terms of it flaking out, and then you have to refresh the frame. It's really annoying. Your net sucks. Have you ever seen the internet in? Oh, I was going to say in Australia. You are in Australia. Yeah, yeah. It's incredible. What speed do you get, Shawl, in Sydney? I'd be interested to see what speed you get compared to what I get in Brisbane. I'm literally in the CBD. In this office right now where I am, you can see my office here. That's my brother-in-law's desk behind me. Ooh, brother-in-law. The net here is 100 down, 40 up, guaranteed. Like $70 a month. Like, it's brilliant. It's really, really nice. At home, $90 a month, ADSL 2, 10 megabit down, and like just under 1 megabit up. It's unbelievable. Wow, 2 megabits down, 0.2 up. Oh, it's so painful. So sorry. It's so bad. I've been in Australia for 5 years, and when I was in the UK, 300 megabit just wasn't an issue. Honestly. Let's have a look. There used to be a delay that you could configure as a streamer on Twitch. There could also be some settings to tweak within OBS labs. Yeah, S labs. But yeah, blame Aussie into not otherwise. Into not. I think my bitrate is pretty okay. I can't change anything without closing down the stream, but my streaming output is 2500 kps. Should I increase that bitrate? I think the bitrate on the video streaming is the compression, so it's a 2500 kilobits per second. I don't profess to know much about video. I'm told that I should maybe increase that to maybe 3500, and that will increase the compression, which maybe make it better for you. What do you reckon? If a lot of you are having that problem, then maybe I'll investigate that. What was I talking about? All right, yeah, the organization. So yeah, so we wanted to look at the workload management and the workload. So let me see if I can diagram it out. I wouldn't alter the bitrate myself. Your stream looks okay at the moment. Okay, cool. All right, I'll leave it as it is for now, and then we'll maybe look at it another time. Page view, grid. What happens if you turn page view off? Ah, just locks you in. Yeah, okay. Oh, 1 second. I'll get that window otherwise. I have my stream up on the right just so I can, my OBS on my streaming box on the right just so I can look and make sure everything looks normal. Okay. So I think how I explained it, the kind of outer band network, as Abstract said there. Oh my god, look how thick those lines are. They are thick, boy. Yeah, it's like an outer bound network effectively. So if we look at it like this, we'll have a repository for the management stuff and a repository for the workload stuff. And the management repository will come down and it will configure things like, yeah, like I said, like VPCs, subnets. This has to be perfect, but I can get a bit silly with it. And other kind of, yeah, out of bound stuff. which will effectively support the other side of things, but it keeps it abstracted away so that you don't really have to worry about a workload change, manipulating a VPC, or adding in a subnet that you don't want to have in there. So I really like that. I really like building the subnetting and the networking kind of outside, out of band of the workload itself, so that you can control what the workload can actually do and can't do from a completely separate code base. So here we've got our workload, and then here, this is where our EC2 instances come into it. It's where, not in our case, but in general, your RDS instances will come in. And in a way, the management stuff, like I said, that's probably the wrong kind of graphical representation to use. What I kind of need is like a kind of equals kind of thing. Yeah, whatever. You get what I mean. Like, I guess if can I snap that? Oh yeah, there we go. All right. That looks dumb, but whatever. So the management code base effectively enables the workload to happen. In fact, actually, a good way of representing all of this would actually be kind of like I mentioned earlier. Let's get rid of these arrows. Oh my God, what's going on? Let's get rid of these arrows and that. Yeah, it would actually be as like I said before, like a house, right? So the management here is creating this stuff. Got that. Great, thank you. It's creating this stuff. A horizontal line, which is kind of acting like a foundation for this stuff, right? Which is effectively the workload. So if we make that a dotted line to kind of represent that it's kind of not an actual resource, but something that's effectively outside the scope of the AWS account, it kind of exists externally. What we end up with is let's actually align these kind of like that. Yeah, okay. Come on. Yeah. It doesn't have to be pixel perfect, but it does have to be pixel perfect. So look. Okay, so I guess that's a good way of looking at it, right? Is that it gives us our foundation here. Why did I do that? Which builds everything necessary for everything else to exist, right? So with the separation of concerns, which is a common developer methodology, separation of concerns. It's kind of the Unix philosophy as well. It's kind of like write a tool to do one thing really well. What you're effectively doing here is writing your management Terraform, your management Terraform or your management infrastructure to do one thing, and it's provide the basic underlying infrastructure for everything else to build upon, and just does that one job. And then the workload or we'll import modules that will build these various things for you, and those modules just do one thing really well. So that separation is really good. It's really good from a security perspective as well. Let's just download this actually. -1, okay. I like the way it does that actually, a little -1 at the end, because it obviously because it's an existing file name, but it's kind of good for versioning as well. Anyway, that separation of concerns is definitely a good security barrier to have in place, in my opinion. You wanna this stuff here on this lower end, that's a mess. That's a big line. This stuff down here. Oh my god. 180, 180. Yeesh, no. This stuff here, right? This is the kind of stuff that's only accessible by kind of like high level, or say, let's just say senior engineers, right? But then because it's kept separate, this stuff here, which is everything else basically, can be accessed by anyone, such as vendors, juniors, DBAs, etc. Are you okay if I message it on Discord about this thing's cloudy? I know stuff all about it, but I'm wanting to know more. This kind of feels like I've walked into a lecture halfway through the seminar at uni. I'm a tad lost. Yeah, absolutely, man. Poke me on Discord. I can't promise I'll answer during the stream, but I'm online most of the time. I think given your name, Dropbear Antics, I'm going to guess that you're in Australia, so you're in my time zone, so I can answer it. And I've got a couple of crash courses as well. I'm also saving the VOD, and I'm going to be putting the video on YouTube as well. For this first stream, at least for the first few streams. So yeah, absolutely. So I understand where you're coming from. If you come in halfway, it can be really disconnecting and really, you kind of just like, what's going on? But yeah, so you'll be able to watch the VOD, and you're also more than welcome to add me on Discord as well. Absolutely. You've been active in the TKF. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Love it. It's a really really good community. Very, very smart people. Really nice people. It's been very, very helpful in helping me get the stream up and running. Very, very grateful to that community. Including yourself, if you remember. Thank you. So the upper workload tier is accessible by vendors, juniors, DBAs, and so on and so forth. So they can manage this top tier. They can manage the modules that build a particular application, implement WordPress or something. But only the seniors / management / directors / whatever, CTO, whatever you want. The kind of the more tighter closed group of trusted individuals. They're the ones that have access to the management tier repository, just because that's where you define, it's where you define your IAM policies. It's where you define all the subnets, the VPCs, your internet gateways. It's where you're defining what can and can't access your infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty sensitive code base, and it should definitely be locked down. Should definitely be locked down to a few people. Nikki, let me see if I can create an invite. I'm not sure if I can. No, I can't. Let me get you a link. It's basically the Knowledge Fellowship, and what the Knowledge Fellowship do. Education focused streamers and viewers, exactly. If you wouldn't mind finding that website for that, Dropbear, that would be really cool. Thank you. I just can't remember the name of the URL. If you could post a link to that, that would be great. Thanks, mate. Otherwise, I can just do it later. All right. Pronounce Naki or Rohan. Rohan, if you like. Rohan. Okay. I'll go with Naki. You can post a link. You should be able to. Yeah, shouldn't be any issues posting the link. Yeah, should be good. Okay. Okay, let's look at this. This is the management versus workload. You know what I should probably do as well, actually? Let's go with Let's add another attachment, if it lets me, from my computer. Oh, I guess I should upload it, but I'm probably going to change it a lot, aren't I? Yeah. There's a .draw.io. It's basically an XML file. Go to draw.io, file, open from computer, and then you can follow along and edit things if you wish. You can even, if you want to, you can post links in the chat. I don't have an issue with that for now. I'm sure that'll probably get abused at some point, and I'll need a bot probably. But if you make changes to it and you want to share them, go for it. So that's the difference between the workload and the what was it? Oh, we're doing the Git repository, sorry, and the management. So you know what? I reckon we go in and actually start creating these now. So I always use the prefix of TFM, Terraform module. So we'll go with workload management. Okay, so workload. Also, let me know if my keyboard is too loud. I've got a mechanical. Maybe it's to reduce the microphone sensitivity and try and get it just mainly focused on my voice. But not what I can do about it at this point in time. Hopefully it's not too annoying. Module for implementing core network and such. And security. Oh, let's put in IAM policies. RTFM, indeed. We'll make this public. Yeah, we'll put a README in there for now. Come on, GitLab, create my repository. Well, that's good, isn't it? I love that net data. I think it's really cool. I think we'll definitely implement that into the base image. I love that GIF as well. So good. Yeah. So this blog post which I posted earlier just talks about how to organize workloads. If I just post the link to my webpage, actually, it's my business's webpage. You can look on there, and I've got several blog posts around golden images, what they're useful for. This has got a link here to my Terraform crash course over on Podia, which is free, and I've got an Ansible one as well. So if you're up on Ansible, the Terraform one is basically an introductory crash course, which could be useful for yourself to drop if you're learning about cloudy stuff and you want to look at Terraform and to implement some cloud stuff as code. This will get you on board. In fact, this crash course of mine was actually picked up by the project manager for Terraform open source at HashiCorp, and he sent me an email saying it was the best crash course that he'd seen in a very long time. So maybe it's good. And the webpage has other things as well, like what is GitLab, what is CICD. So that's kind of like what I discussed earlier on in the stream. Have you created my repository? Yes, you have. That's nice, isn't it? All right, let me make sure that's okay. Where am I? No, not KK. Yeah, all right. I've got a Git folder. Oh. Okay. All right. Oh. All right. Let's oh, that was right. Let's get Git installed. Thanks, Dropper. There we go. All right, let's clone that in. Yep. Yeah, that's fine. It's unlocking the password on the key, and there's only one directory, so yeah, we got our README in here. Okay, let's load up Visual Studio Code. I'm inside of a VM here. I think I mentioned that earlier. So it's a little bit sluggish. It's not quite as snappy as a as obviously a native machine, but it's very sufficient for what we're doing here, and it also means that excuse me. It also means that I can quite possibly snapshot the VM and actually just show the virtual disk image. It shouldn't get too big. It should only be, it might be a couple of gigs as Ubuntu, but I guess yeah, I guess you can just pull the repositories, but I can always show the image if you just want an up and running. You build it and off you go. But I'll obviously have to strip out security credentials for obvious reasons. All right, so that's our management repository. Let's build out the other ones. So sorry, this isn't very interesting at this point in time. Have I on the right? Yeah. So Terraform module, and then we'll just build out the workload. Workload specific code. Public, give you a readme. And don't take forever this time. Cool. That's much quicker. Done. All right. So we got our workload and our workload management. What I'm not going to do on stream for security reasons is set up the AWS account. So I'm not going to write much in the way of code at this point in time. Okay. Yeah, cool, Naki. I agree. It's good to see the basis of putting these parts in place and understanding why it's organized in this way. I agree, and this is kind of why I wanted to do the stream, really, because I wanted to. I have a YouTube channel as well, and I was putting up static kind of pre-recorded scripted videos. But what I thought would be better would be having a stream where I can bounce this off you. Not just you, Naki, everyone, and you can come back with ideas and thoughts, and I can pivot and change direction based on what you want, rather than kind of doing a pre-recorded video and hoping that it's right. I love YouTube. I think YouTube's great. I get a lot of info from YouTube. I learn a lot from YouTube. We all can learn a lot from information you can find on YouTube, but I think a live stream is just a little bit more kind of backwards and forwards, and you can tell me whether you're enjoying this or not. And I'm glad that obviously, yeah, 100% been looking for somewhere like this. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay, that's good to know. When I looked at Twitch and I went through the kind of the science and programming section, I noticed that there was just nothing. Like, there was no one doing this kind. There's a couple of DevOps channels, but none of them were active. They were all dead. They were all just absolutely dead, which was a shame, really, because some of them looked really good, but what I noticed is that they were just posting talks that were happening kind of in a lecture environment, like a guy with a whiteboard talking. And when you watch the VODs, they weren't very good. So I thought, nah, let's set up a stream whereby we're actually going to build something from scratch. We've got a little tiny Kanban board here, if you like, a little Scrum board here, whatever you want to call this, in Trello. We can go through it together. We're seeing how it's done. All the source is open source. We can go through it. We've got the architecture, which we can go through and understand and see how it's put together. So yeah, great. I'm really pleased that you're enjoying it at this point. That's really good to know. All right, so I reckon we're going to start with Terraform workload, Terraform management. Okay, I don't have an AWS account that I can work with right now, which is probably open folder. Yeah, that is how you do it. Okay. Oh, it's the one I already had open. Sorry. That's silly me. All right, what I'm going to do is on the side here. You're going to hear me typing, but you're not going to be able to see anything. So I'm going to create the AWS account here now. I just can't remember if I've got one against my Cloud Coach account. So I'll get this set up now, because now we can actually start writing a bit of Terraform and actually just start seeing some stuff going through. Got a feeling I'm going to need card details. I'm going to make sure they don't appear on stream. You go out and buy yourselves a nice little gift on my business card. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? For you, it'd be very nice for me. Okay, well that's not my name, so all right. Looking at the architecture that I've outlined so far, is there anything that you would want to see? Is there anything missing? I know a lot of people are probably going to say Docker, Kubernetes. That's fine. We can get there. I don't have anywhere near as much experience there as I do with other technologies, the ones that we're going to be going over. But I'm more than happy to explore that. This is all about me learning as well. We can learn together and we can play around together. But if you let me know what you want to see, that would be great. All right. I'm pretty certain this asks for details, and I think I've got to verify it via my phone as well. Wonderful. Great. There was an error. That was it. That's all I got. Okay. Oh, I got an account. Oh, okay. It worked. Oh, okay. Well, that account's up then. Let me just go in and set up security billing. But yeah, if you can let me know what the kind of things that you actually want to see, because I'm just going to go ahead with this for now, and I'm sure from what I've got so far is you're gonna. Sounds like you're going to enjoy it, which is great. That's good to know. But I'm more than happy to explore specific technologies as well, if you think it would make for an interesting stream. Once we've got this account as well, we're good to go. Correct. Yay. All right. I'm going to go and see if I can now launch an EC2 instance in this account, and that'll tell me whether everything's all set up. Okay. Complete your AWS registration. All right. Just keeps coming up with an error. Can probably give you a brief on where I am and what I'm looking for, but would probably do it in Discord. That's fine, go for it. Yeah, I've got the Discord open. I've got the Twitch chat open, top left, and the top left, and the Discord is open bottom left. So if you just pop that in, maybe the general channel, I'll be here. Absolutely. Okay, make sure you provide us all the information. Check your and see if you received an email with this information. You verify your credit card is correct. Also check. Noki. Go for it, Noki. Yeah, go for it. Nah, keep getting an error. God damn it. Alright, tell you what I'll do. I will log as console. I will log into my normal AD, my normal account. Was going to use a separate account, but that's giving me jib. So let me just load up the deets here. Okay, AWS management account. Let me log in. Console home. Sign in. On account ID. Sign in or put an account ID in. Yeah, okay. Just going to log in and then I'll create a an IAM user. God damn it. I don't have my one password set up on this PC, so I'm having to type it out manually from my phone, which is obviously a rather arduous task. Crazy. So I'm more a traditional tech infrastructure manager, currently working for a software dev company. They have a hosting side business. They sell the software and then tag on, we can host that for you. Okay, cool. We manage AWS, GCP, and soon Azure accounts. Resources for companies, but very, very manually. Okay, yeah, so you're going to be interested in Terraform and Ansible, aren't you? And that kind of automation. I am. Right. Ah, sorry about that. Yeah, my face only scene in OBS didn't have the studio mic in place. Thanks for that, Naki. Do apologize. I was just explaining that I've gone into face mode so that you can't see the screen because I'm just going to do some moving around of security credentials. Thanks for pointing out, Naki. Appreciate it. Alright, what I need to do here now is log in. Okay. Just going to get my access key and secret key. Just close that. It's here. Just over a Discord messages. Yeah, okay. And I got to the point where you said you're doing things very manually, didn't I? I'm starting to push Terraform, and I'm looking for correct best practice examples for managing using Terraform, GitLab, probably monitoring to assist with self-heal. Yeah, the main drive is to bring hosting as its own product. That's my remit. So here I am. Yeah, awesome. Good to have you, Naki. Thanks for coming along. That's exactly the right reason to be here, really, because that's the stuff I'm going to be covering. And what you've just described there is effectively you're almost an MSP, really, is what you're going to be doing. And you're going to need to use Terraform. You're going to need to use automation, because if you don't create repeatable blocks of infrastructure as code, you're going to make things very hard for yourself. Yeah, you're going to make things really difficult. Close these tabs, close that. So yeah, no, you're absolutely 100% need to that's the wrong bloody thing. Be using repeatable code segments, so that when because you've got the software that you're selling to people, you're going to want to launch that using Terraform and Ansible, and then you're going to get the next guy coming along saying, I want that too. And then it's like copy, paste, change a few variables, Terraform apply, and then you go, there you go, mate. Like, if you get it done right, I'm literally talking 20 minutes later, you'll be able to basically say, you're done, we've got you set up. Okay, I'm going into my account, generating my key. The screen will come back shortly, guys. You're just gonna have to put up with my lovely hairdo here. It's just me and my motorbike. The effects of my motorbike helmet. Well, I say motorbike like I'm some kind of badass, but I actually mean scooter. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not the big hard man that you thought I was. Okay. All right. By the way, I'm going to be creating everything here in Sydney. How do you... I've completely forgotten how you... Oh, yeah, okay. Sweet. Alright. Actually, if I just double check. Delete that one. Just test it works. EC2 describe instances. Should just get an empty. Yeah, reservations and blank. Alright, cool. Alright. Okay, back to the terminal here. So I've got my AWS credits set up here now. So what we can do now is we can actually start configuring a few things in here. So the workload management here, as I said, is definitely where we're going to build out. We're going to be storing things in S3 using DynamoDB. We're going to be using there's going to be a provider block in here, and you'll as we go through time and we start producing these modules, you'll see what I mean by that. When I say that a folder contains Terraform code is a module, that's a fact. Every directory that contains Terraform code is a module. Even if it has a provider set up to talk to AWS, it's still a module. It can still be used as a module. But when I create modules that aren't directly interacted with and pushed directly to AWS, they're imported into other code bases. You don't put provider blocks in there, but that will become clear as time goes on. Unfortunately, I have a meeting in 10 minutes, so I have to catch up on the vid. That's all good, Naki, no problems. Again, the VODs will be saved. I'm going on YouTube as well. I'm going to be on for probably about another hour. I'll be on, yeah. I'll probably go to about 8:15, 8:20, maybe 8:30, and then we'll just chill out and people can ask questions if they want to. Come on the Discord or whatever. Alright. Weird artifacts on the screen. What's that? Go away. Oh no. Oh, what is that? Okay, so the management, so what do we need, right? So we're going to need a, let's create its initial bit of stuff here. Provider.tf. Okay. So I'm using VS Code for the editor. I usually use Vim. I'm getting strange drawing artifacts inside the VM here. I'm going to search the marketplace for the Terraform built-in, syntax highlighting, and so on and so forth. Oh, why is it flicking like that? That's weird. Let's give that a close. Maybe it's a code thing. Alrighty. Okay. Let's have a little think about it. It's gone quite slow at the moment. I come here. Oh, it's definitely a VS Code thing. Something's happening in the background with VS Code. Wow, that's really slow. I don't know why it's doing that. So I just switched to Vim for now. Oh man, there's like a 10-15 second delay between typing and it appearing in VS Code. That's insane. What? That is mental. What's going on? I knew code was heavy, but well, that. Oh, that's annoying. I don't know why it's gone slow. I really want to use VS Code because it's a very common editor. A lot of people use it, and so I really want to actually use VS Code rather than Vim. But it's giving me a bit of crap right now. How annoying. I don't know how to overcome that. I could give the VM a restart. Maybe that'll do it. Alright, let's go to here. Task manager. Yeah, sure, to be honest with you, there's nothing running on that VM at all. It's super minimal. It's got a lot as well. I've given it 8 gig of RAM and access to all 4 cores on the system, and it's got full access to the VTX CPU instruction set, so it's accelerated as well. It can talk directly to the CPU instruction set basically. So that's really, really strange. Okay. Just making sure OBS picks up my VM on the thingy machine. Yeah, okay. VM's back up. Let me log in. It's meant to be. Okay. That doesn't look 720p to me. 1 second. No, that's not 720p. That's 720p. Right, see how well it performs now. I'll just load it up. If it falls over, I'll just use a Vim. It could be since installing that module, the Terraform plugin. Nah, it's come to a grinding halt. Let me get rid of that Terraform integration. because I think it installs a language server in the background as well. Minimize that. Yeah, uninstall. Right. I really don't mind using Vim if I have to. It's not that big of an issue. It's just really odd how it's now. Alright, I'm just going to use Vim because I want this. I want to move on from this. This is boring. Okay. What was I doing? Git, TFM, workload management. All right. So if I go to here, GitLab.com, I think I'm Mr. mkrilly. Am I just Mr. Krilly? Repositories. Vim. Woohoo. I'm going to pull down my I keep this handy for when I need to do anything in Vim. It just sets up a few nice things for you kind of out of the box. Then I just don't use it that often, so sometimes I actually forget. What's the reason for doing this on a VM? Well, when I did my Terraform and Ansible training courses, I noticed that when I was doing things at 1080p or at a higher resolution, it was really difficult to, you had to do a lot of post-production in order to make the text visible on the screen for the end user so they can follow along. And when I did a bit of searching, a bit of research, the guys that do the egghead tutorials, they posted the blog saying the best thing they found is to set your resolution to 720p with high DPI, because that results in the text being really, really readable. So instead of setting because my desktop Windows system has a 27-inch 1440p monitor at 165 Hz. So imagine me setting that to 720p. I've got a monitor chat and everything as well. So it kind of isolates the system, and because it's inside of a virtual machine, I can set the virtual machine's virtual display to 720p. That then gets fed into OBS and then gets streamed to you. And that's why everything's kind of clear and readable. Otherwise it'd be really difficult to manage. And it's also a clean working slate as well, right? It's a working environment. It's a plug install. What do you mean? Really? I could have sworn I did that. Yeah, I got to install the component. Yeah, exactly. Once it's up and running now, you're pretty much good to go. Yeah, it's plug install. Okay. So this is going to install a few things that just kind of help. Hopefully it all just works. I know that ZFS one. Yeah, Vimgo can. I don't really care about that. All right. So all this will really get me is it should just get me some basic. Oh, not this again. Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry. I needed to. Wow, that visual bell is going to be painful, isn't it? Damn. That just went visual terminal. I don't want sound. I definitely don't want you flashing, giving everyone an epileptic fit. I think it's on the profiles, isn't it? Usually. Edit preferences. Oh, it's not the best terminal emulation. Alright. I'll try and minimize. Alright, well now we're going to lesson in how I set up my work environment from scratch. Which is lovely. I had this problem at my work as well. On the laptop I had to set up there, and I can't remember what I did to get that working. It was alright, let me just ZZF. Let me just reintroduce these lines here. Right. And then let's just have a look at the error. Guten tags. Really? Oh, was it that one? Yeah, okay. It's these two bad boys here. Alright, Naki, thanks for coming along, bro. See you soon. Oh man, that visual bell. Right, there we go. Alright. Let's get writing some code. This is not going to be anywhere near as nice as VS Code, but that's absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lot of Googling to get the correct syntax here, because that's going to benefit you more than it's going to benefit me. But I always sometimes forget things as well. So all we need to do with an AWS provider is so the provider block is how we set up access to a provider such as AWS, Azure, GCP, but even other providers. Look at all these bad boys here. So we've even got sorry, my bad. Where are we? All providers. So we've got all these various cloud providers. Helm. We've got RabbitMQ. HTTP provider just talks over HTTP. It's a bit more of an advanced provider. Talk directly to a chef. I assume like a chef master maybe. Linode. So providers. So if you think of a provider block as being a way of almost talking to a vendor, it's probably the best way. Probably the best way of thinking about that. Think of a provider as provider AWS is saying, "Hey Terraform, you're going to talk to AWS now, and here's the configuration that will tell you how you do that." So if you want to talk to Terraform Cloud, then it will do that. Looks like my stream flickered a bit there. Ooh. Okay, my bit rate seems to be dropping down. Okay. My bit rate seems to have dropped out, so I think I dropped out a bit there, which is why I absolutely have this dashboard here so I can see what's happening. Seems to be back up now. I think I got a bit flaky there. I don't know what that was about. There was a connection problem between me and Twitch. Cool. All right. As I was saying, yeah, so these I probably cut out there, so I'll start again. So basically Terraform providers are a way. It looks like it's dropped out again. My connection here is spot on, so I shouldn't be dropping out. All right, I'll keep going anyway. So a Terraform provider is effectively a way of saying we've got an external vendor DigitalOcean, AWS. You're going to connect to that for me, and I'm now going to configure you and tell you how to do that. So AWS for us is obviously our cloud vendor of choice at this point in time. So we're going to talk to AWS. Here's how you do that. Let's do it. So yeah, there's loads of options. There's loads of providers out there that you can use. So we're going to use AWS, and the provider for us is actually really, really quite simple because I've got it all configured kind of in the background, all the credentials. So we just need to specify the region. So the region is actually the only thing that we need to actually implement. Now here is a very good warning: hard coding credentials into Terraform configuration is not recommended. I agree, that's not a good idea. These things can be put into your AWS configuration. So yeah. Drop for us viewers, if the stream fails, try pausing and then unpausing the stream. Only refresh if that doesn't work. Yeah, I think I had an issue here as well, Drop. So I'm looking at my dashboard, my stream manager dashboard, and it went from excellent to unstable. So it's either probably my connection between me and Twitch probably dropped there, and the bitrate basically fell. But it's gone back to excellent now, so hopefully, sweet. So don't do this. Like this isn't recommended. I put in the access key and the secret key directly inside here. Configure this externally, or use environment variables. All right. Okay. So all we need to do is go region equals AP dash southeast. In fact, using Vim is probably going to be a good idea, because it's going to enable you. It's going to enable me to have to do things a bit more manually instead of the editor doing lots of things, and you're like, how's that formatted the code? So, for example, if I come out of here, that visual bell has got to go, right? That's insane. Maybe I need a much better. I've got a sound. Cursor blinking always. Profiles. Colors, use transparency, show bold text, and go scrolling. Oh, unlimited. No, don't ever do that. Cursor blink, isn't that the option to disable it? I think the cursor blinking is that cursor there flashing. I think that's the cursor blinking. Whoops. Whereas this is actually a visual bell. All right, let's just put up with it for now. Show menu bar, enable theme default. Oh, man. That really, clone, rename. Is the terminal actually clear to see? I mean, it's kind of white text on black, so it should be fine. That should be good to go. All right, let's have a look at the visual bell again. Can't seem to replicate it actually. That's weird. So if I now do Terraform format, it's formatted the provider for me. So then if I go back in, it's actually taking away the space. Oh, there it is. There's that bell. It's taking away the additional spaces that were here. But that's actually a good thing in a way. So if I'm writing it messy here and then using the command line tools to implement formatting and linting and stuff, that's probably actually better for you, because you're going to see those tools in action rather than an editor actually doing lots of magic behind the scenes, which is definitely not what we want. Okay, so when we're setting up Terraform code for the first time in an AWS account, there's a bit of a gotcha. So I want to store the state in I want to store it in an S3 bucket and have a DynamoDB table for storing the S3 bucket for storing state, and a DynamoDB table for creating locks within that state. Okay, so you can't do that through Terraform code, or rather, you can't. You can create an S3 bucket and a DynamoDB table through Terraform, but then we'd have a management code base. We can't have the Terraform code create the bucket and also store its own state in said bucket, because obviously the bucket doesn't exist, so how's it going to put it in there? And it has to create it before it can do that, but it can't do that before it creates it. Chicken and egg, classic chicken and egg. So this is probably one of the only situations in which you actually come in to an AWS account and create a couple of resources manually. I don't like manual, but that's okay. So we're going to go cloud search. We're just going to go stream v1.0 dash state. That'll do. We'll put it in Sydney. Create. Okay. So and then we'll go to DynamoDB. This is just my general kind of AWS account as well, just R&D. So you'll see all kinds of random stuff. So in here we'll call it, give it a table name of a similar state, but we'll just put locking on the end here. So the primary key has to be lock ID and it has to be a string, and that's all you need. But this primary key has to be lock ID and it has to be a string, and then there's the name. Create that. That'll take a few seconds. Oh look, there's a table I did for a brown bag that I did at Queensland Treasury, Treasury Department for the state government. That was from a brown bag session that I did for them. Okay, so what we now need is we've got our provider, so we now know how to talk to AWS, right? But what we actually want to do now is we now want a backend. So if we go Terraform S3 backend types S3, and a backend is different from a provider tells Terraform we're going to use S3. Sorry, we're going to use AWS. Here's how you connect to it. And you can put multiple providers in the one code base as well. But what a backend does, a backend is used to configure Terraform's state and say, I actually want you, instead of putting the state file right here on disk on my local system, I want you to put the state up here in this backend. And there are lots of different backends. And at the moment, on my current contract, I'm working with Terraform Enterprise. It's actually quite nice. But S3 and DynamoDB are effectively my go-to methods for pretty much anything else. So what we're going to do is we're going to be really lazy and we're just going to copy paste that in. Okay, now I've got to remember what I called that bloody bucket. TCC stream v1.0 dash state, I believe I called it. Okay, we're going to configure, so the bucket, so we're configuring the so this block here is the Terraform block, and it's saying to Terraform, I want to configure you, specifically you. I want to configure your backend, and in this case I want to configure an S3 backend, and then that's when we then have our flags. Permissions we can ignore because the user that I'm creating everything with has administrative access, so we can do all of that stuff. The DynamoDB tables, again, permissions can be ignored. So if we come down here, configuration variables, so these are all the things that you can configure. The bucket, the key, that's required. The region, we don't need that. What else there was? No, there's nothing else required. So what we're going to need is DynamoDB table, bucket, and key. So we don't actually need region because, well, we don't. And the key is effectively the path within the S3 bucket. So there's no such thing as directories or folders within S3, technically speaking. They're just keys. And if they've got slashes in them, they just get rendered as folders within the S3 console, within the AWS console. They look like directories, but directories technically don't exist. It's just a flat object store. But what we'll do is we'll just put it in TFO state. We'll just call it management/terraform.tfstate. So that's the exact key. Terraform won't put .tfstate on the end. It literally uses that as the backend, as the key and the file name. That is exactly what you'll get. And then the other thing we need is a DynamoDB table, which I believe we call TCC stream -v1.0 state. Do we call it locking or lock? Let's go and check. We called it locking. TCC stream -v. I know it says, looks like it says v10, but can't put a dot on there. v1.0 -state -locking -state -locking. Okay. So we do our. If we do a Terraform Enterprise, you can actually do check, and it tells you, and then you look at the exit code, and you get an exit code of 3. So that's a good way in a CI pipeline to enforce valid code formatting. So when developers are pushing Terraform code to your CI or pushing to a repository, your CI can pull automatically and go, are you formatting your code correctly? Because we want our code to meet a certain standard, a high quality. We want it to be readable. We want it to be formatted correctly and consistently across the board. And so format with -check on the end doesn't change the file. It just tells you whether it would change the file. So if we look at the exit code from that last command, echo $? We've got an exit code of 3, and anything that's not 0 in Unix is a fail, is a bad exit code. 0 is a good exit code. So that's a good thing to do in CI, but we actually do want it to write the file for us. So now if we look at what we got in Vim, it's actually just correctly. If you look on, if we look at these 3 lines here, we can see they've now formatted nicely, and the equal signs are now all perfectly in line. It's all 2 tabs and two spaces instead of 4, and so on and so forth. We don't need to actually write anything there. So what happens now if you Terraform in it? Hopefully we've got everything set up. You can't pull that from the back end? Oh, okay. Really? That's interesting. Okay then. Oh, I know why. I bloody well know why. Nah, you don't. I think I know why. Because I've put SP there instead of AP. Yeah, it's Asia Pacific, Southeast 2. Just out of interest, if I leave that line off, give it a good old format, and then just run. No, okay. That's really odd. I thought that it would actually do that. God damn that Flash. It's like being in front of a load of paparazzi getting my photo taken. So now when we do Terraform init, it's gonna configure the S3 bucket as the back end. It's gonna look at the DynamoDB table and go, I can create a lock now. In fact, we can actually generate a lock as well. So we don't have any items in there because there aren't any at the moment. But if we come into our bucket here, there is no state. So the reason there's nothing in the bucket is because there is no state. I know that's really confusing because obviously you're probably looking at it going, but there is state though. You've written code. No, I've written code, but I've not written state. So no, we don't actually have state. We just have code right now. We've not created anything, but we are going to create something. So if I create a new buffer and write it out as vpc.tf, what we'll do now is we'll go Terraform AWS VPC. Right, and we're going to create a very simple VPC. We're not going to do any of this tenancy. We're not going to tags. Tagging's a really good idea. Yeah, let's make sure that we're tagging things. So let's also do another thing as well. Let's create a new buffer and we'll call it locals.tf, and we'll create some Terraform locals, which are basically they're essentially local variables, basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with do I want to just call it tags? Yeah, let's go with default tags. Default tags, and then we can use a map function if we want to put in any custom tags. we can use a map function and we can merge the default tags map with a custom one if we want to put any custom tags on it. I guess we're gonna want to, aren't we? Because we're gonna want name to be almost different for everything, aren't we? Nah. Let's leave that for now. Let's just do the tag. Let's not overcomplicate things. Let's just leave the tags as is. All right. So we're going to create our very first resource, which will introduce state. Enable this VPC. We're just going to call it one. AWS VPC main, and then we're going to go CICD block equals, and we're just going to go with the classic /16. Let's go with 0 as well, actually. So CICD block we're going to create a /16. CIDR is a classless inter-domain routing, so it's basically a way of carving up IP addresses or subnets effectively, so you can maximize the amount of space that you have available to you within a block. It's effectively creating broadcast domain boundaries between networks. This is effectively what a LAN does. What we'll do here is we'll go tags equals name equals, and we'll just put TCC stream 1.0. We don't need to put, what a lot of people do as well, and I don't like this personally, is they'll go the name of something and then they'll go like VPC. Well, I know it's a VPC because I'm looking at it in the console and it's a VPC. And right here it says VPC, right? So you don't need to put VPC in the name. I know it's a VPC. If I'm looking at something in the dashboard, I'm going, oh, I wish this bucket said S3 bucket at the end, because I'm not aware that it's an S3 bucket, despite the fact that I'm in S3. So I know it's a bucket. So my advice is the end of names is don't put what the thing is. Doesn't add any value. Just makes it longer for no reason. What's up, Naki? Anyone seen the AWS Outpost options available? Anyone wants an AWS cluster in the garage? Oh yeah, it looks pretty beefy, that thing. In fact, I'll just write and then I'll just. This terminal emulator is definitely going to get replaced. It's not the best, but it'll do for now. It's at least put me in the right directory, which was nice. All right, so format our code again. All right, and then if we come over to here and then do a reload of it, we'll see that it's actually changed. Right, so now if we do a Terraform apply, let's see what happens. Maybe if we do Terraform apply here, we'll get our own AWS Outpost built for us. Who knows? Probably not. We're going to get a VPC. So this is our very first Terraform apply. It's our very first bit of code. This will introduce state into the S3 bucket. So we'll see that in a second. So we're creating our first resource now. Water. So just in case that is water, it's not vodka. I'm not that nervous right now. I'm not nervous at all, actually. Resource AWS VPC. I'm just going to call it main. Could call it default. I don't know why. I just go with main. And then we can see the various aspects that are going to be computed after the fact. So we don't know what that's going to be until it's been computed. We don't know what the ARN is going to be because it hasn't been built yet. We do know the CICR block. We're not assigning a generated IPv6 CIDR block. Don't care about IPv6 at this point. We're turning on DNS support, which you need for things inside of the VPC to be able to resolve internal DNS within the VPC. Instance tenancy default, we don't have any other option there. And then we're going to create our tag. Oh, that could actually collide with another CIDR, actually. No, it hasn't. Great. All right, then. Now we have state in S3. We actually have a stay file now. So that's being secured away in that S3 bucket. So that means that if I were to go in and delete that, I'd be an idiot, for one. Don't do that. But it would also, if I then went Terraform apply, it would go, oh, I'm not going to do it. But it would complain. And then if you did Terraform in it again, it would reinitialize everything from scratch. And it would be really, really confused, because it'd be like, hang on, I've got a VPC local in my stay file locally, because even though it's stored in S3, it's still cached locally. It breaks stuff, so don't do that. But now that's actually nicely locked away, we can actually look at a git status now. So I guess the first thing we need to do is definitely create a git ignore file. And definitely add the Vim files that can very much get in your way. Very much ignore the Terraform directory. Yeah, okay. So now we've got our git ignore, our locals.tf. We're going to remove locals.tf again. I'm not going to overcomplicate things. If we do a diff, we won't see anything, because there's nothing existing within the repository's file system, internal file system, to diff against, because nothing exists. So we're just going to add them in. We're going to go our first commit. Yay! No, I forgot to do all that. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. Don't copy and paste code directly into the terminal, people. Don't code and drive. Shoal, sorry, I got to run. I hope to watch the videos tomorrow if possible. Awesome, Shoal. I won't be streaming tomorrow, but the VODs will obviously be available. So yeah, you're definitely more than welcome to check them out. But I won't be streaming tomorrow. I'm going to be streaming Wednesday and Sunday. That being said, if there is enough viewers, if there's enough demand, if I'm getting enough followers, then cool. I will stream more. I'll absolutely stream more if there's more demand for this. But for now, it'll just be Wednesday and Sunday this time. Well, thanks for coming along, Shoal. Really, really appreciate you coming along. Hope to see you again shortly. Thanks very much, buddy. Thanks for the follow as well. You followed me 4 hours ago. Thanks, buddy. All right, let's get this. What was the other one? It was a real name, isn't it? User.name. Yeah. See you, mate. Okay. All right, and then we do git commit -- amend. Oops, a daisy. Yeah. Oh my god. Okay. Modify buffer, is it? Yes, right. Oh. Ah, yeah. Okay. So that's gone in there. So commit. That's what I want log. So there's a log. Let's get it pushed. So why can't I put update or reject because it's your branch is behind the remote? How? What? See you later, remote. Oh my god, what is going on? You are not allowed to force push code. Ah, protected branch. That's actually good policy as well. It is definitely good practice to have branches protected so that you can't actually push directly to master. In this case, I'm going to allow myself to do that. In fact, why don't I? Method not found. Hi. Thank you. Welcome for coming. Ramthulsi, are you teaching AWS? I'm teaching a wider variety of things, really. the AWS does come into it, but I'm not specifically just talking AWS. There will be you will get to see AWS in action. I will talk in depth about what I am doing, like if I'm setting up S3 buckets, showing you how I'm doing that. But we're going to be doing things through Terraform. So we are teaching AWS, if you like, but it's through code, through Terraform. There'll be Ansible, GitLab, Packer, and there'll be various other technologies that will all come together to basically make up the whole stream, which is to deliver an MkDocs installation in a very simple HA environment inside of AWS. So yeah, there is some AWS in here, but I'm not doing like an AWS certification track or anything, but you will certainly learn things along the way. I'm thinking that we just try this. I'm gonna have to do my Git skills are not the best. Alright, I'm just going to unprotect the branch for now. Branch. Let's have a look. Keep stable branches, force developers to use merge requests. Protect the branch. Okay, well. I should be allowed to merge because I'm the best. Allowed to push. Yes. Require approval? No. Am I adding the protection rather than... I'm not even in the right repository. I'm in the workload repository. God damn it. Need to get my head together. That was an error message then that I saw. No, it did flash past me. Settings repository. Mirroring repositories, push rules, default branch. Yeah, is obviously master. Protected branch, start deployment keys, deployment key repository. Protected branches. Allowed to push, maintain. Well, I mean, maintainers. Well, I am a maintainer. That's unprotected for now. Only I have an SSH key that I can push to it anyway, so. Your branch and a branch have diverged. You have one and one different commits respectively. That's weird. No. Strange. Okay. I'm just going to have to force my code over the top of it. Doesn't really matter. Oh, okay. There it is. All right. We're at about 8:30 now, so I've been streaming for about 2.5 hours. So what I want to do there is just kind of chill out a little bit. Just go to questions if anyone has any. I'll be on the Discord and in the chat. But that is essentially the very initial setup of the two first repositories that will get us going. So this will effectively enable us to. It will effectively enable us to get all of the management stuff in place. It will enable us to get a basic workload in place, and then from there we can start adding in. We're going to need to start creating our AMIs with Packer. We don't just want to use we can just use a shell script with Packer to configure the AMIs, but it is better to get into the habit of using Ansible because you'll use Ansible for configuration as code. It's much nicer than just the shell script that you inject into the AMI. Definitely much nicer. I have some lemonade now, so there's some water. Again, if any of you have any questions, the chat's right there. Hopefully this has been really useful. And yeah, we're gonna progress onto AMIs next. A bit more Terraform code, some AMIs, using Ansible to configure those AMIs. And then yeah, we'll start looking at then building out additional images on top of that for things like MkDocs users. Some of the things we'll do will probably be maybe overkill and probably not necessary, but at the same time, you're gonna learn a lot from them, and that's actually the main thing. It's not about specifically implementing something perfectly correct. It's more about, do you as the viewer learn something from this? And obviously, to me, that's the most important thing at this point in time. So we'll continue this. I'll pick this up in a little while. There doesn't appear to be any questions in the chat right now or in the Discord. So I'm going to pop off. I'll be back on Sunday. Please feel free to come to the Discord. It's listed in the Twitch channel description. You can see it in there. Come on over, ask any questions whilst between streams, make any recommendations, give me any tips or tricks, or let me know if there's anything that you wanna see next time. Maybe you want me to change something. I'm certainly gonna make sure that terminal emulator isn't giving everyone epileptic fits. That'll be nice. Thanks, Dropper. Thanks for the stream. Thanks for that stream. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for coming along. I appreciate it. Thanks for everyone who came along. I'm sorry if you've just kind of popped in late and there's like the last 10 minutes and kind of wondering what's going on. I'm only going to be streaming for a couple of hours until I get used to the process, until I actually also see demand for it as well. So hopefully this has been useful. I will be back on Sunday. The VODs will be available soonish, I think. The beginning of the first VOD will probably be cut off because I didn't enable it until after the stream started. Hopefully it caught the stream, but if not, I've managed to record it to disk from pretty much the beginning, and so I'll put that on YouTube for those who want to pick up the rest of the video. But I will be back on Sunday. Thanks. See ya. Have a good night. Sleep well, or enjoy your day for those in the US or the UK or Europe. Have a nice sleep, or have a nice day. Enjoy your work. Don't work too hard. Bye.